Sarah Griffin, acting chair of the Greenway, and I'm with my partner in crime, Barney McHenry.
And I do everything, and you must do everything that Sarah says. And so we start
with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And as always, we introduce ourselves. That's Sarah. I'm Barney. And that's Judy Kennedy. Just introduce yourselves as we go along, because I'm nearsighted. Can't see over there.
Dave Church, I'm the Orange County Planning Commissioner.
Rob Lane, Regional Plan Association, and the consultant for the Greenway that we're going to present.
Bill Gordon, New York State Department of Transportation.
Jennifer Schwartz-Berkey, Greenway Conservancy.
Cindy Lanzetta, Greenway Conservancy.
Linda Vonderheader, Rensselaer County Greenway Council member.
Jane Daniels, member of the Conservancy.
Freddie Garcia, Greenway Conservancy.
Frank Bergman, Hudson River Boat and Yacht Club Association.
Andy Schmud, Putnam County representative to the Community Council.
Ted Putnam, Greenway Council, County.
Kevin Burke, Greenway Conservancy, Citizen of Newburgh.
Nancy Peters, Department of Environmental Conservation, on behalf of Commissioner Montana.
Scott Cowles, Greenway staff.
Edward Diane, Orange County Executive. Marcus Stiglione, Greenway staff.
And before we go to the back with Beth.
Beth Picacharo with the Greenway.
Don Green, Swimming Orange.
Now, starting on the right over there, yes.
I'm going to start?
Yes, please.
Rick Herbeck, City Manager, City of Newburgh.
Johanna Poor, I'm the Director of the Historical Society for Newburgh Bay and the Highlands, and we have the Crawford House Museum, which is here on Breck Street.
Paul Suppley, and I'm working with
No one works with John. Anyone works for or against.
I'm Fred Osborne. I'm Commissioner of the Taconic Region of the New York State's Arts
I'm Matt Shook. I work at the Palisades Interstate Park Commission.
And Susan Smith, also from Palisades Interstate Park Commission.
John Clark, Dutchess County Planning.
Chris Morcatello, New York City Greenway. Susan Holland, Executive Director of the Historic Albany Foundation, one of the grantees. Thank you.
Tony Spelling, President of the Downey Park Planning Committee here in Newburgh.
Jennifer Lett, Washington, Rochambeau, Revolutionary Bridge, National Historic Park.
Eric Ross, Lawn Preserve, New Boston.
Virginia Safety Director of Community Programs at Glenwood.
Nancy Thomas, President of the Newburgh Preservation Society.
Alan Canning, member of the Always on Local Committee. Walt Faulkner, member of the Planning Board, Marlboro. Morning, I'm Glenn Gadali with Martin, which is in the area, and the offices.
Steve Osborne, Supervisor of Marlboro.
Animal Units, President of the Orange County Municipal Planning Federation.
Nancy Cozine from the Landing Committee, and now the revitalization of College Hill and Virginia.
Annie McClellan, City and Regional Planning graduate student, and with a concentration in Historic Preservation, Pratt Institute.
Susan Rowland Brown, Grant Consultant.
That's it. Looks like it. We're delighted you're all here in the beautiful Capitol Hall with a glorious view of the Hudson. And now we'll hear from another landmark, Ed Diana, who has been here for, let me see, 3 terms, right? 3 terms. Where's that?
I'm right.
3 terms. 3 terms. And you're on your 11th year as executive.
Oh.
Right? 12th year. And your 12th year. And that's when many of the audience were in school when you started.
That's right, that's right.
This is 3 terms and there's no term limit. And who was the guy before you was?
Mr. Rand.
And then before that was?
Mrs. McPhillips.
So we're delighted that you've done this and the things that you can tell us about some of the original settlers, about how you watched the Ebenezer Baptist Church being built in 1873. Anybody should speak right here.
I'll speak right here. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to be here in Great Orange County overlooking the great Hudson River. And I can tell you one thing, this view, MasterCard has nothing over us, right? MasterCard, priceless, okay? This view is priceless, I can tell you that. So just take a moment and turn around and look at it, and how beautiful this campus is, and certainly how beautiful the Hudson Valley is. Welcome to Newburgh and to Orange County. I'm happy to welcome Hudson Valley Greenway board members, staff, friends to our great county. Thank you in particular to my good friend Barney McHenry, your Greenway Council Chairman, and to Sarah Griffin, Acting Chair of the Greenway Conservancy. Thank you for being here and being so involved in this very important issue. It means a lot to us. And to Mark, thank you for being the Acting Executive Director, Mark. Great expertise, great knowledge, and I'm sure someday they better make you not acting any longer, I can tell you that. Bringing you all here today, choosing this great site right here in Newburgh, New York. A great city, an all-American city over 50 years ago, and I believe it's coming back. It's going to be an all-American city again. I also want to thank Mary Crabb and Kevin Burke, our local representatives to the Greenway. Thank you for being here. Tremendous roots here in Newburgh, and I know you believe in what this stands for as well. So thank you for taking time to do this for us. We are happy to be hosting here today. I'm particularly proud of this building that we are in today, a wonderful multi-million-dollar building. Collaboration also between the state, local government, county, and certainly through SUNY Orange, led by Mr. Bill Richards, a great president. During this construction phase, and we're doing something very similar in Middletown, it's the largest construction phase of any SUNY campus in the state of New York. That's a 2-year institution or a 4. This is the largest. Between the two projects, it's over $130 million investment, with the state helping, local philanthropy, and that's certainly here. Mr. Kaplan, his foundation gave $10 million towards this building. That's why it's named Kaplan Hall, I can tell you that. But he also believes in the city of Newburgh and many areas where his foundation believes in and donates an awful lot of money. So it's a true collaboration between people, between governments at different levels, to make education the most important thing we have. Because I believe that's really what it's all about. Our future leaders, and you must educate them in the right manner. And this kind of group also educates those children and those students to learn more about the Hudson Valley region as well. What a beautiful room. It's priceless. MasterCard doesn't beat us. This is also a LEED certified building. It's the first LEED certified building in our government system here in Orange County, and we will build more that are LEED because we believe that helps everyone out. So this is a LEED building. We continue to work to revitalize important places right here in Newburgh, and we will continue to do that. I do believe that the way cities go is the way our counties go. We have 3 cities in this county, and Newburgh certainly has so many things that are great, an opportunity. An open water port, an international airport, certainly a road system that beats none in the state of New York. A lot of great people live here, and better people are even coming, and the same people coming to this great city. So we have to do everything to make it just a little bit better. I'm also proud that after some years of effort, you will now be considering Orange County as a Greenway compact community. Very important to us. I fully support this initiative, which you will be hearing more from today from our Planning Commissioner, Mr. David Church. David is an expert. Anytime it comes to planning, him and I have a lot of great conversation, and I learn an awful lot from that man and his knowledge, I can tell you that. I want to thank Orange County Planning Board, Chairman also Susan Metzger for chairing that board, and the members on there for also believing in this compact. We are going to be adding this. We used Regional Planning Association to work with us, and we certainly will be adding this Greenway compact, hopefully, to our overall master plan here in Orange County when it comes to planning and building in this county. I hope that you'll approve us and make sure that we are good enough to be into your compact. This will soon be going before our Orange County Legislature as an amendment to our Orange County Comprehensive Plan, like I just said. It will be part of our plan. And then to our municipalities, hopefully for their support as well, because we need the municipal buy-in to this great program. I think from what I'm hearing across this county, we will have an awful lot of communities buying into this belief. I think the trend has changed tremendously when it comes to planning throughout the state of New York. As a county, we believe in the principles of smart growth and the vision of the Greenway. Thank you again for being here. Thank you for inviting me to speak today just for a couple of minutes to invite you to be here, stay here. We have a little time left after the meeting. We have Washington headquarters here, Knox is here. There's a lot of history here. Little ride, you can go right to West Point if you'd like and take a little look at that. And also walk down Broadway, get some food there, have a lunch there, and just experience some history in a great city like the city of Newburgh. I'm proud to say this is a great place to live, work, and raise your family. So Barney, thank you very much.
Wonderfully. Much better than the last 8 times. Sarah?
Thank you very much for that. I now have the pleasure of introducing Judy Kennedy, the mayor of the city of Newburgh, and I have just had the pleasure of reading her bio. It's just always inspiring to see the distance you've come from Idaho to an interesting trajectory from Idaho through all over the country to settling in Newburgh, but with such an interesting background in from construction to Hewlett-Packard to just a long list of really interesting careers. And so it just seems that so much of it has culminated and made it very possible for you to use all those skills to settle into your new position. And I think you've been mayor now for a year. You said a year and
3 months.
3 months. Okay, well, it's our absolute pleasure to welcome you and invite you to say a few words.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm so pleased that the sun is out today and it wasn't raining like yesterday morning. This location, when the sun is out and you can see out over the river, is indeed one of the stellar views along the Hudson River, and we're so fortunate to have it here and fortunate to be in the Kaplan Room here at SUNY Orange. What a wonderful asset, and we thank the county and what the county has done in terms of helping us put it together, and so many others, SUNY Orange, Mr. Kaplan, and all the great people that worked on this particular building, because it has created an anchor along Grand Street and set this into town in a new place and stability. I'm so pleased to welcome all of you here today as part of the Hudson River Valley Greenway. We passed a resolution not too long ago Rick, can you remember, was that about a month ago to become part of the compact? I think it was.
I believe we are all in favor of joining the compact.
Right.
But first, the county legislature was put it in place. I am sure the entire city council will go along with becoming a compact community once we are able to get to that particular place.
I knew that the county hadn't got there yet. Our resolution was in saying that we are supporting that move forward. So we are already behind it and in support of it, and I want you to know that. Because the whole concept of the compact, of what Hudson River Valley Greenway does, the idea of supporting the tourism, that is part of what is going to really bring the vitalization back to this community. And I want to support that. It's a piece of what I'm trying to do and what all of us are trying to do, the council and so many here in Newburgh are trying to do in terms of building tourism and building the economic base and bringing people up here. So I just want to thank all of you. I don't need to take a lot of time. You all know what you're here for, and I support it 110%. I want you to know that. I'm behind it. That's why I'm here. It's a great organization, and it has a great mission. And there's so much that we can do. I think the words that come and ring in my ears today over and over and over, with collaboration, cooperation, teamwork, we are all going to move this community and this Hudson River Valley forward. It's when we get into these polarized fights that we can't move forward and things get paralyzed. So I'm very, very pleased to see this kind of collaboration here and cooperation. Thank you, and thank you.
Most inspiring. Thank you. I would now like to ask Don Green, who is the Business Solutions Coordinator for SUNY Orange, to say a few words.
Just want to welcome you on behalf of Dr. Richards. And I know a lot of you know Mindy Ross. Couldn't be here today, but they did want to extend an invitation. We're obviously very pleased to have you in this locale and doing what you do and being right next to the Hudson. We also have a building just a couple hundred yards this way, the Tower building, which was completely gutted at the time that this building was built. So it's basically a brand new campus. And they did want to extend an invitation for you to feel free to wander around and look at both buildings. And there'll be people available to provide some tour services if that's something that you'd like to do later. Okay.
Great.
Thank you very much. Now you heard about the compact community, compact county. Is that when Orange County becomes a compact county, there will be 5. And those 5 are
Westchester, Rockland, Putnam, Dutchess, and Orange.
So we'll need to have, if to have the entire Greenway, you would need 4 more.
We would need 9 more.
9 more? Oh, that's right. You got those upstate people.
We have the
up
upstate.
there.
There's upstate too.
Yeah,
We don't want to leave them out. But for our Hudson Valley region, the Mid-Hudson Valley in particular, we'd almost be 100% within the compact for Ulster, Dutchess, South. Ulster County is also working to complete its compact, so this region will be 100% participating in the compact once that's completed and after Orange County adopts their compact.
Well, you've done great stuff. You really have. This is extremely important because you have counties acting together, and there is no state mandate for that. We're really the only one. But talking about mandate, I guess David Church is a good person to talk about that. He's been talking to us about what should happen, and now he can tell us what will happen. And this is your 5th visit, right, to the Greenway meeting, I think.
It might be.
Okay. David, please.
Well,
That was nicely done, Judy.
I appreciate being here. Is it on? As you've noticed, perhaps, this has been a multi-year effort. I think Orange County talked about this well before my time. If it's possible, before your time, I guess is the joke now, Ed. As you can see, there's a bit of a pent-up interest here. I had to be reminded by Mark, your director, that whoa, don't adopt it yet. The Greenway Council's got to go first. So you can hear from the mayor and the city manager here, we were already starting to forge forward and get municipalities to adopt. So I'm going to go through the process a bit and where we're at. I know this is initiating the formal Greenway Council review. The presentation is being circulated around, so you have a paper copy if you like that. And then Rob Lane, Rob and I have had the pleasure of working on several projects together through Regional Plan Association. Rob has really been the kind of creator of this in helping mash together, in our case, a series of policy documents that match to the Greenway principles and come together as a compact document. So Rob's going to walk you through that and give me some help, but it really is a pleasure to be here. So,
okay.
Rob, it's all set up?
Okay, now this is everybody got a, that's what David's talking about. It's also being passed out to Judy. So.
I got it.
I guess we want to get out of the way.
Have a good day, everybody. Got to run.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Barney, I'll see you, Barney.
Oh, you will indeed.
All right.
You can't get rid of us, Ed.
I won't take that as a symbolic gesture. So our process to date, we've actually anchored this work in the County Planning Board, which is a principal advisor to myself and the county executive on various matters as by our county charter. They've really led this effort. And the first initiative was we did retain Regional Plan Association, which Rob Lane had led the work, who you'll hear from in a moment. They suggested we first do outreach. We're fairly well organized in Orange County, as is quite similar, I think, to Dutchess County, for example, in that we have a relatively robust county planning federation. It's dominated by the planning board chairs with some participation from zoning board chairs and some elected officials. So we keyed into that group. Animal Hughes is here from as the current president of that federation. He's a town official in the town of Newburgh. And we use that as an outreach mechanism, which we've been continuing to do with an NGO called the Orange County Citizens Foundation. That's the OCCF. And with them, we developed an early concept for this. Rob's firm did some overview and some work with the planning board to do some evaluation of what policies we already had and how they match up with the Greenway principles, and how we continue to proceed in pulling together a unique document that both our legislature, municipal officials in our county, and the Greenway Council itself could support. That's ongoing still now. We've tested that. Rob and I briefed a set of mayors and supervisors about 2-3 months ago on this. That's when the mayor was there and there was some initiation by what we might call the early adapters. They wanted to get ready and adopt this already. And so we've asked everyone to slow down a bit, but we did get some letters of support right off the bat in that process. So we're here today making a presentation to all of you. We envision our next steps. I don't want to be too predictive here, Barney, but when you get together next, we're hoping that you approve our Greenway Compact. Key to that.
You got my vote.
Oh, do I? Okay. Does it come with some commitment, Barney? That
only one vote.
I will go to the Rules and Intergovernmental Affairs Committee. It's kind of the mothership legislative committee in our system all, our action formally at the county level, which I know is different in some other counties, is we're going to literally adopt this as a amendment to the county comprehensive plan, which in our case is done by local law. So it goes through our rules committee meeting. They've already been briefed on this and are very supportive. They will initiate that come June, and we're hoping promptly our legislature meets in the first week of every month in the July meeting. It will be fully adopted. Our process we're proposing in Orange County may be somewhat unique or different from some of the previous ones. The feedback we got from municipal officials, which the city manager here in Newburgh noted, is that they really do want the county to adopt first and lead by example, and from that we'll get formal municipal support. So we're proposing to do that sequentially, and as such, outreach with municipalities continues as we speak. So with that, Rob, you want to come up and? Sure. Or are you going to do it for? Next slide. Are you going to turn to the next one? Oh yes. Okay. Our structure is key to the fact that Orange County has a fairly robust set of existing land use policies and documents, one of which I will note, and if you've seen it before, you'll see some of the structure of the compact as it's presented mirrors this. Rob and his staff were instrumental in helping Orange County come up with a design manual to try to guide development. Many of you know counties in New York State don't have zoning and planning authority like much of the country. It's true in most of the Northeast. But we have a particularly significant guidance role, and we do review many planning and zoning permits before they're acted on at the municipal level. So we decided to come up with a design guide, and that's the keystone for the Greenway Compact. I think I've shared that at one of these previous meetings that Barney noted. So our Greenway Compact document is structured, which Rob will detail to some degree, in three parts. One is what the Greenway Compact is in essence in the Orange County context, how that relates to the Greenway principles with some specific discussion of that. Second, it's the strategies on how we're going to achieve these principles keyed into those policy documents we already have in place. Orange County's comprehensive plan is anchored by a concept called priority growth areas that are literally mapped and defined, where Orange County collaboratively with municipalities prioritizes certain development activities, and in turn where it de-incentivizes it or focuses more on farmland and forest land protection. And then the third piece is an introduction to the Orange County Design Manual, which again is a product collaboratively with Regional Plan Association, which is an essential attachment to this. So our compact, as proposed, is a synthesis of several policy and guidance documents that are already in place, and a kind of an introduction to those set of them. So with that, Rob, you want to come up here?
Great. Actually, I'm going to go back one just for a sec. So you'll be happy to know that this PowerPoint presentation is mercifully short. It's about 12 PowerPoint slides. I don't know how many of you are aware of sort of PowerPoint creep. Now that people don't have to have slides made anymore, there's no limit to how long PowerPoint presentations can be, and it's painful. Regional Plan Association is a non-for-profit. As you know, that we do regional planning throughout the region. I want to thank the council, and I want to also sort of say that, as regional planners, we're interested in intermunicipal planning, and what we've found is that somewhere between people's parochial interests in their individual municipalities and spinning out big visions for the entire tri-state region, units of government at the county level are extremely important because they represent this kind of intermediate level where you're actually able to get people to talk to each other about things that extend beyond their boundaries. And also geographies like the Hudson River Valley, which is imageable in people's minds, is essential because that actually people, even home rule crazed people, understand that they have a shared interest in some of these larger geographies. And so I want to thank the council, and I also want to thank David and Diana, even though he left, because as you know, if you're in the planning world, you lose most, you win a few. The ones you win, usually you win because you have great partners, and David and Orange County and the council have been great partners. Bob Bizik in Somerset County, New Jersey is another one of our great partners. You know, these county planners make a big difference. Connecticut doesn't have county units of government, as you probably know, even though they have it on paper. And that's a huge challenge for us. That's why we actually do least well in Connecticut of the 3 states. So as David said, if you imagine, and I'm glad John Clark is here because I want to thank him for, he sort of counseled us in the beginning. I think we all recognize that Dutchess County is kind of the gold standard in the sense that they used the Greenway compact process as a way of actually creating their comprehensive plan. At the other end of the spectrum, you can imagine us taking the Orange County comp plan, the design manual, putting them in a binder, slapping the Greenway principles on top and say, okay, we're done. So we tried to hit something in between, which was, as David said, to kind of synthesize 3 things: the comp plan, the municipal plans, and the design manual, and try to create a document that kind of was an introduction and a guide to all 3 of those documents. And that's the way it's set up. So the first part of the document actually demonstrates the compliance of, it has a series of spreads which look like this. I'll show you just 2 of them. As you know, there are 5 key Greenway principles, of which economic development is number 2. What we did is, so the first part of the book has a series of spreads where we repeat the principle, the Greenway principle, and then we sort of describe on the far left, you can't read it because it's not clear enough, the Orange County Comp Plan is called Strategies for Quality Communities, and we sort of explain in that column the way in which Orange County's documents already support that principle. And on the right-hand column in blue, that blue header, is the way in which the design manual supports the design guideline principle. So we have 5 of these thematic maps around each of the 5 principles, such as public access. And by the way, the one that's been the toughest, and I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but I heard the discussion that was going on among the council members earlier about trying to promote tourism and how difficult that is. And I'll say of the 5 maps, the one that we've had the most trouble doing is the one that deals with heritage and environmental education. That's the one that we're struggling with trying to make the most sort of imageable. So the first part of the book are these 5 spreads around each of the principles, explaining how the municipal plans and the comp plan and the design manual support the principles. And then what we did is part 2 takes each of the elements of the Strategies for Quality Communities, the Orange County Comp Plan. And what it does is, at the top, it states the Orange County principle, and then these brackets, the text that they have that goes with it. And then the idea was to have a kind of readable, accessible explanation of that part of the Orange County Comp Plan. The Orange County Comp Plan is a great document, but it's about this thick. It has almost no illustrations in it, and it's not very accessible. So the idea was, well, here's our opportunity to take each of the Orange County principles, turn it into something that's graphic. And we even had this fantasy that you could even give these sheets out, that we'd have 1 sheet per principle, Orange County Comprehensive Plan principle, and you could actually give these out almost as standalone sheets, and we may yet do that. There's a sort of color key in the left-hand margin that enables you to trace where you are in the comp plan. And then we excerpted, in quotes, pieces of the individual municipal documents, because the idea was to show that that many of the comprehensive plans of the individual municipalities already had the Greenway principles embedded in them. So in order to do that, we embedded quotes that we excerpted from those documents. And then at the bottom, typically we would have a reference to the piece of the design manual that was most relevant to that principle, right? So the idea is to get all these things on the sheet. The Orange County Comprehensive Plan principles summarized in a graphic way, an excerpt from a municipal plan, and a design guideline from our larger design manual. So that's part 2 of the document. And so there's one of these around, the various, I'm just excerpting a few for this PowerPoint, the one about open space. There's a whole section on corridors. There's a whole section on economic development and quality of life. And again, the same format. Orange County Comp Plan with a graphic summary, the relevant design manual piece, and the relevant piece from the local municipal plan. And then part 3 is just 3 or 4 pages long, and it basically introduces the structure of sort of incorporates by reference the design manual, which is itself like a very graphic and nice looking document, but about this thick. It sort of introduces the manual to people and explains to them how it's organized. And these are a few of those pages. So in that way, the compact is meant to pull together your principles with the design manual and the comp plan. And then I'm going to get this back to you. I just want to say one thing about the compliance thing. One thing we did in the beginning was we collected all the comp plans from the municipalities, and we sort of did this giant matrix where we had the Greenway principles on one side and the individual municipalities on the other. And we said, well, let's see if we look at their documents, how many of them conform with the Greenway principles. Of course, most of them do. We did this kind of color-coded map to sort of suggest that they either do, somewhat, or a lot comply. Of course, what we found, and I guess this is a lesson to all of us, is that when we presented this back to the county, they said, well, even though you have a red dot for that town in terms of what their documents say, they're actually doing a lot. And then there were other places that had a dark green because their documents said all the right things, but they weren't actually implementing stuff, right? So there's 2 things. There's what their documents say, and there's what they're actually doing on the ground. And those are not the same thing, as you know. That's a frustration. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Dave, and then we can take some questions.
So to just restate, presuming council approval in June, we will go to our county legislature through a committee process initially for amendment to the county comprehensive plan with this compact document. Essentially is a new chapter to that plan proposed to be approved in the July timeframe. Somewhat overlapping, but certainly subsequently we will start rolling out, we'll get on the road and start locking in municipal support, led by perhaps we could say the green and the yellow dots, if I can say so. Don't feel badly if you're got an interest in a place that's blue or red. It's, as Rob said, it's a bit nuanced, but it did help sort of us to set up a kind of hierarchy of who to start working with. And we'll start rolling that out in anticipation. I make no projection of what it might take to get 51% of our municipalities to approve this and become completely a Greenway compact county. We have 20 towns, 19 villages. So we seem to have a particularly robust interest in Orange County and villages, one of which is essentially coterminous with one of the towns, the town of Woodbury, and 3 cities. So we have a little bit of work to do, particularly with some of the villages. If I may note, probably our largest challenge is that funny side of the county that drains in the Delaware River that's a little confused by this, yet they're in the Greenway. Notably Port Jervis, Deer Park, and portions of Greenville and Mount Hope are actually in the Delaware River drainage. In the case of town of Deer Park and Port Jervis, entirely. So they've been a little baffled, but ironically Port Jervis in particular kind of matches up pretty well. So, but they've already sort of ribbed us a bit about this. But we're feeling very positive about it. We look forward to talking to you more, and thank you for the time this morning.
We want you to do some questions. Delaware, that's the other river over there.
Hold it against them.
Yeah, we're going to try to get questions, comments?
Yes.
Well, I just want to congratulate you. It's beautiful work. It's very elegantly put together. And as a representative from Ulster County, I'm very grateful that you're also going to be working on pulling that together because it's a great model, as is, of course, the work of Dutchess County for Ulster County to pull all of the things that we've done in the last decade together under this kind of very organized, very clear framework. So thank you for leading the way on that. And I also just wanted to echo Edward Diana's words, because I so appreciate Mark's work, because it really is under Mark that so many of our counties have taken on this regional planning process, this compact planning process. Done a tremendous job, and you were really great with us in Ulster County, so thank you.
Very nicely, very nicely said. Any other questions? Yes.
So, this is very impressive, and
Speak up.
I'm a little daunted by it as just a layperson. So, when I'm looking at, for example, the environmental infrastructure and water supply building, and then it says design manual C detail N45. Is that a completely separate document?
Yeah, that's this. There's a design manual. And so the idea was we weren't going to try to staple this to the Greenway thing, because it would get completely cumbersome. So the idea is that where we can on a typical page, we sort of, where we can, we sort of explain to people at the bottom of the page. And by the way, if you're interested, if you want to see the design manual, if you go to this part of the design manual, it will show you the kind of design tools you can use to get to this goal.
Okay, and
so the design manual is a separate thing incorporated by reference. And if that isn't clear, you should tell us, because that's something we should change.
If I want to take
the
this
number
back
and
to
the
my
coloring
community.
is a key coding to the design manual.
Right. If I want to bring this back to my local planning board and just say, you know, here, we haven't adopted it yet in our county, but here is a big chunk of what can help you plan locally. I need all of these pieces in one place. And the thing that is ultimately adopted will include the design manual.
Right, and let me just say, in Ulster County, slightly different situation. Ulster County has 4 key documents. You have a transportation plan, a housing plan, an open space plan, and an economic development plan. They don't have a comp plan. So in that case, the Greenway document that we write is it's not going to be their comp plan. We're not getting paid enough to do their comp plan. But it's going to be a document that sort of tries to knit those things together. It is also going to incorporate this design manual with some elements, like some photographs of local conditions in Ulster County that enable it to be kind of calibrated to Ulster County. So the idea is that this is a reference that we're using all over the region. I mean, David paid for it initially along with the Lincoln Institute. I'm flogging it all over the place. I mean, the stuff that's in here is useful regardless of what community you're in.
I think that's really what I'm asking.
Yes.
Is that even if we haven't adopted any of this yet, that design manual is probably a good planning tool for any.
It is, and David and I are trying to figure out how to distribute it, whether it's going to be through a website or whatever, and make it clear to people that even though the Orange County Water Authority sort of paid for most of it, that it's not so much the Orange County Design Manual as it is, I mean, we're flogging it as the RPA Suburban Design Manual and want it to be used as widely as possible in the region. David is okay with that. So, yes, so the answer is yes. And if it's not clear, you should look at the document. If that's not clear, if the structure isn't clear, you should tell us, because this is still in draft form, and we can change things graphically to make it even more transparent if you think it isn't quite there.
It's probably clear to everybody else.
Well, I mean, if somebody who's on the Greenway Council, it's not completely clear, then that doesn't give me.
The design manual is on the Orange County website at the Planning Department. It's at the RPA website, I think, right?
Right.
We distributed an early version of it to this council probably over a year ago, which could do that again to sort of re-emphasize. If it sounds as a shameless pitch, I'll accept that. But Rob and I are now struggling with how to roll this out further. Orange County's prepared to make some additional investment in this, but we're particularly interested, and RPA would be leading in an internet grant-based resource. So if you got any suggestions on where there might be financial partners, we'd be open to suggestions. It's a challenge. It's a very graphic-heavy document initially commissioned for particular Orange County purposes. So we're Orange County, we're fully supportive of a regional plan rolling this out further. But we do need to get it right on how we properly reference it, because it's a key supporting document to our county compact presented to you.
It sounds like you're almost there, and as Jane's pointed out, and she's been at, and you've been with this all. We go back to Dutchess, right? And that was the first compact to have design in it, and that's so important, because that's the kind of thing that people can see, read, and understand. And understanding what this is all about is why we are here and what we're trying to do, because, say it again, there is no framework for these counties to act together. There's not a framework for anybody to act together on zoning. Zoning in the Northeast is the lowest common denominator. I guess is the easiest way to say it. And that's the key to protecting this great landscape and to economic development. Judy, you had a question.
It wasn't so much of a question as a comment, and having done not these kinds of things, but huge documents, I find a daunting task here to put together information and come up with a plan that is laid out so it's the same each page. It has an organizational structure to it. I just wanted to say I'm pretty impressed that you were able to bring together these documents and put them in such a way that I can flip through probably each page and go, okay, here's what the municipalities say, right? Here's what the comp plan says, and flip through the various strategies for it. And
Judy, that's why we have planners. They get a degree.
They did a good job of it, and I just want to say that.
I'll confess, as a planner, I'm a bit dead wood when it comes to design, so I should say that regional plan, Rob's team, Rob's been phenomenal. If you don't know, Rob's a trained architect, and really was able to turn this around in terms of consumption graphically. So,
Mark.
Well, I just wanted to commend you for putting this together. I think it's tremendous as a planner. One of my main things, which I did not learn in planning school, was the power of communication and what that means for actually getting plans implemented and getting people to make the changes that are going to shape their communities and how they look. What this does, and what I think what Dutchess County does, and what a lot of the other plans do, is connect the goals and take them out of the abstract and give you practical solutions, design solutions to achieve that goal. And what the compact allows is this implementation to happen. In our state, implementation happens at the local level. These give localities the tools they need to make those decisions and to design their communities in such a way to achieve those goals. It allows for coordination across the counties and regional coordinations with the counties, across counties, and with New York State. So it's tremendous. The question I have, though, and I was just chatting with John about this before, and he mentioned it to me, is how do you see this working in relation to your Article 239 reviews? And are there any opportunities that you're seeing to streamline that review process based on a community's adoption or reference of this manual or this document in their deliberations?
So what he's referring to is the General Municipal Law 239 section that authorizes counties in our county charter case, the county planning commissioner, to review and comment on most planning and zoning permits before they're issued by municipalities. It's nuanced. I won't go into it. In Orange County, we take that responsibility fairly robustly. It's different from one county to another, but we review everything. In a busy year, that's something shy of 2,000 permit reviews referred to us by municipalities. We have 30 days. We're very strict in that we stick with adopted policy on which we base our reviews to see if there's a county or intermunicipal interest. So but the importance here, and it's not just leading by example for the county, but by our legislature adopting the compact, it becomes policy that we can and will use when we comment on individual municipal planning and zoning actions. So it's that process, if some of you are as intimately familiar with it as I am, others are probably a bit baffled, is neither permit nor purely advice. We can actually, as county planner, I can force a supermajority vote by a municipal board for approval. If they have to comply with my department's comments or override us by a majority plus one vote. So it's a bit of a hybrid thing in New York State, but it's we intend to use it as guidance for those reviews.
I mean, I have to say, when we started this, I mean, John was very helpful. And I asked him, I said, has this been effective? You know, like, and he said it has been effective because, and I saw actually you all are entertaining something from Tivoli, that they're going to update their comp plan to conform with the Greenway. John said that, he said that the sort of incremental process as municipalities go to update their comp plans and zoning, since they have to comply with the Greenway, sort of has had this sort of incremental impact. So I would hope that that would be the same thing in Orange and in Ulster.
That's a good comment, because we've been at this for a while, and people are now joining involved. When we got started on this journey or task, if you will, there wasn't much excitement in Orange and Ulster County about the. I think that's fair to say. And what there is now, and that's what counts. But you had a question, Kevin.
I just wanted to ask a broad question, which is, how do you see this plan, if it's adopted, affecting the dynamics in the county? So, to take one example, heritage and tourism. One field of it. In a place like Newburgh, you go back to the 19th century, let's say the city of Newburgh had enough resources on its own to care for its assets, buildings that were historical significance. It doesn't now. And if you go to a city council meeting in Newburgh, historical resources are down the list because there's many other challenges, joblessness, education, a whole array of issues in Newburgh, right? Opportunities and challenges. The historical resources are down. Do you see this adoption as giving the county, in a sense, more leverage or more influence or more resources to play a role in helping localities provide stewardship for their own assets, which they are no longer able to do?
Well, I certainly hope so. Our county approach, which I think is parallel with most, the counties and the municipalities have a complex relationship that ranges from excellent to poor at some moments. And as such, we tend to work where we're invited on these matters. So we're hoping this is a door that's going to open those invitations. As you hear in Newburgh here, the door is already open. In fact, I'm in City Hall this afternoon. But so on some of that work, but several municipalities are still kind of wary about the big bad county. So we're hoping as by working with particular friendly, welcoming invitations, we can kind of build to the. I think it was Bob Elliott who may recall. I forget who to credit this with. A prominent former state official had said there were three kinds of municipalities: those that get it, those that never will, and the ones in the middle. And I think we're looking to work with the ones in the middle in particular, which is the majority of municipalities here in Orange County.
Any other questions or comments? This is what we're all about, and it takes a while, and it wouldn't have been possible in Orange County 10 years ago to have this conversation, honestly. Sarah, agenda review stuff?
Yes, I think I will. Well, thank you again for a wonderful, wonderful presentation. And I think I would just add, in terms of what the next steps are, I think, to the extent that there's still 9 counties, is that right?
I was incorrect. There are 6.
Okay.
I'm a numerator, so I apologize.
All right. So 6 that still are in need of this. I wonder if it might be possible to at least get a copy to the the senior planner, the head of planning for those counties. I know just Columbia County itself has a ways to go. There's new energy and new life in efforts to develop planning. I think they would profit tremendously from this document. So I know everything costs money, but if there's just any way to start small and then think about how to do broader distribution. And just I was going to say,
full disclosure, you are Columbia County. Probably the best historic site in terms of content and original fabric is your Olana, and Sarah is the executive director.
Thank you for that little push. But Kevin, I was just going to say one thing that occurred to me was that I know that we, in our capacity, have profited tremendously in our grant proposals to protect our own site, to be able to cite major comprehensive plans, context, anything that puts an official stamp of approval to say that what we're doing is consistent with those principles is huge. And it's not only for private foundations, but now the REDC, the Regional Economic Development Council grants, that is right up there. You have to prove time and time again that what you're doing is consistent with these broader principles. So it seems that at least from that perspective, it may allow for potential funding in Newburgh and other municipalities.
That's great, thank you.
Okay, so we move on to the official business portion of this, and so we ask the board members to, hopefully they've reviewed the agenda, and if they have any comments before we begin. Okay, so moving forward, hopefully everybody had a chance to read the minutes of the January meeting, both the combined meeting of the Conservancy, the Council, and the Hudson River Valley National Heritage Area, as well as the Grants Committee. And so I will call for a motion to approve both of those sets of minutes. Jennifer, second. Kevin, and is there any discussion? And then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion is
Abstained.
Okay, sorry. Okay, I forgot to do that. Thank you. Any other abstentions?
Nay.
Okay, thank you. So then the motion is carried, and we will, so then I'll turn it over back to you, Marty.
All right. Thank you, and that call the council meeting in order. It is in order. We have a new member, and he isn't here because he's an assemblyman, and Karen Lawler. What's his district? Where's he from?
He's across the river, the 105th district, Southern Dutchess County.
And but both the Assembly and the Senate is in session today.
Yes, it's a session day.
Yeah, second day. Yeah. All right. So anyway, welcome, Karen, wherever you are this day. Now we have a resolution. Mark, you can take over on all that.
This is the resolution that the Greenway Council adopts to, one, authorize the compact strategy for Orange County, and two, declare ourselves lead agency for state environmental quality review. This is the procedure that the Greenway follows to adopt every compact. We do the seeker. The Greenway law designates the Greenway as the organization to develop the compact, working in partnership with the counties and local governments. This is an example of us working in partnership with the counties and local governments. I'll briefly read the resolution. The Greenway Council has designated the counties in the Greenway area as regions within which the compact will be developed. Orange County has begun the process of public participation, created a Greenway Compact strategy for Orange County entitled Orange County Greenway Compact, and the Orange County Greenway Compact provides for a voluntary bottom-up process for communities in the county to address issues of growth, economy, environment in both local and a regional context, and address the criteria set forth in the Greenway legislation. Whereas the Greenway Council will begin a review under the state's Environmental Quality Review Act and will take the necessary steps to declare itself as lead agency for the purposes, if environmental review of the proposed action. And now therefore be resolved, the Greenway Council authorizes the compact strategy outlined in the Orange County Greenway Compact 2, that the Greenway Council declares itself lead agency for the purposes of environmental review of the proposed action and declares the adoption of the Orange County Greenway Compact Plan to be a Type 1 action, and that the Executive Director of the Greenway Council is hereby authorized and directed to begin the necessary steps for completion of the environmental review and distribute the Greenway Compact Plan in its final form to all municipalities in Orange County with appropriate information concerning the significance and benefits of the compact and procedures of adoption.
Joanna, you want to explain all that to us? No, this is state boilerplate. Is it?
You need a vote on the resolution.
Okay, you need a motion on the resolution, and I'd be pleased to move it. Bob? Okay. Mary? Okay. Mary Crabb. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And any dissents? Okay, thank you. That's what you needed from seeker.
Yes.
Okay. All right, and that's just fine. And now, Mark, would you go through the grants? We had a grants committee meeting this morning at 9:30, and it has some...
So we heard about the regional vision of the Greenway Compact, where the rubber meets the road is what local governments and communities do at the local level to advance these regional ideas. And we're happy to encourage them to make better decisions through our grant program. And this time we have $30,500 to award, and we're looking at 4 projects. The first one is to the City of Albany on behalf of the Historic Albany Foundation. They're going to complete an historic structure inventory. As a resident of the City of Albany and knowing how the city struggles with its historic preservation, I welcome this personally as a project that the Greenway Council should fund, but it's also going to pay tremendous dividends to protect and preserve the urban fabric of the City of Albany, the historic fabric of one of the earliest Dutch settlements in our country. And Susan Holland here, Susan Holland, the director of the Historic Albany Foundation, is here to talk a little bit about the project and what it means for the city. Susan?
Thanks. I think I can talk loud enough. Can you all hear me? First of all, I'd like to thank the Greenway for this grant. I've been at Historic Albany for 8 years. We're almost a 40-year organization, and we've been advocates for the historic fabric since day one. We decided to do, we have 14 national register districts and 17 local districts, but we decided that we had a lot of fabric around the city that was not known and not known to the local leaders who are making decisions. We've had a tremendous amount of demolition over the last, since I've been there before, and we continue to do that, and we don't want to lose any more. Our local paper, Times Union, recently just wrote an article about not taking down anymore. We haven't learned any lessons from the urban renewal days, and we need to stop. So we thought, well, one of the things we realized is that the politicians do not understand or don't know. They just don't know about some of the properties that we do have. We spot them every day, and we want to get some more information. We're not going to be doing a National Register nomination, but what we're going to be doing is actually just inventorying the buildings up to 1840, so we can hand them a list. We can hand the next local official. Here it is. When I leave, we'll still have that list. So we're really excited to do it. I wish I could do that all day. And also, we are also Albany. The City of Albany just did a comprehensive plan for the next 20 years, and till Albany 2030. And in it, it says there's a preservation plan. So Historic Albany has taken that on as well. We'll probably go back to it and ask you for some more, but we're going to be doing that. So this will inform it, and we're also part of a collaboration of 11 historic sites and organizations that are doing a museum that are doing Partners for Albany Stories, which is a collaboration of information about our story, trying to tell our story. I wish we had a compact. I just heard about the compact last week. I know. You don't want me to start over. I wish I knew. I love this compact idea. I just heard about it from Dutchess County Executive Mark Malinero, who was at a conference I was at last week. I was curious, so thank you for filling in my curiosity. And thank you again. Sorry to so
Thanks, Susan.
Thank you.
All right, I don't want to seem like we're playing favorites with where I live, but the next grant's for the city of Watervliet, which is just north of the city of Albany. One of the other big ideas, other than the compact that the Greenway was charged with, was connecting regional trails from New York City to the Capital District. And this one's a trail project. In the Capital District, there are major trail systems. In downtown Albany, you get to the Hudson River and you find the Corning Preserve Trail, which will take you to Waterville. And then there's also a trail that comes from Buffalo all the way into, essentially along the Erie Canal, all the way into Waterville and Cohoes area. But they're not connected. So this grant's going to create a feasibility study or a master plan to work to connect those two trail systems. So eventually you'll be able to go to downtown Albany and get all the way to downtown Buffalo on your bicycle. So that's the big idea. So the City of Waterville is going to do that planning in partnership with a lot of other organizations. This particular connection has been identified by plans that have been funded by the Greenway and others in the region in terms of trails. So we're recommending $9,100 for funding for that master planning project. No one's here from Waterville, but they do send their thanks to the Greenway Council in advance of the approval. The next one is the town of Copiague in Columbia County. Sarah. This is in the eastern part of Columbia County. Like many small towns in that neck of the woods, they have a hamlet and a sort of a hamlet center. And those hamlets range from maybe a stoplight and a gas station to just a crossroads. But they're historic and contain some of the most historically significant parts of their towns. And the town of Copiague wants to explore ways to grow that hamlet, not only to encourage more businesses, but to encourage sort of a village-style residential density there. So they've come to us and requested, they requested $14,000, but we can only recommend $9,000 for the project because it only involves one community, and we don't have enough money to give out. We wish we did. But they're going to be doing a design and development plan for the hamlet of Copiague. There are a number of examples in Columbia County. The town of Hillsdale, we funded a project to do the exact same thing in the town of Hillsdale in Columbia County. And we're also connecting them with folks in the village of Red Hook who have done tremendous work over the past 10 years to figure out how to expand village density and actually get infrastructure to do it. So we're making those connections as well, so hopefully that'll be valuable for them. No one is able to be here for the town of Copiague, unfortunately, but they do obviously send their thanks to the Greenway Board. The final one is I think one of, well, there was some debate in the Grants Committee, but the Village of Tivoli has been a frequent applicant to the Greenway Board. And
frequent winner.
And frequent winner. Well, it's because they do the right thing. And we want to reward the communities that are doing what we want them to do. This project deals with the update of their zoning code to comply with the village's comp plan and the Greenway guides in Dutchess County. And this points to the incremental process that the Greenway Compact brokers in counties and in regions. We awarded a grant in June to the village to design and make a connection between their village center and the Hudson River. So they're continually updating and implementing the very things that the Greenway guides espouse, and this is another example of that. So we're recommending $7,500 for that project. And that's it.
And now, if there are any questions, comments, recommendations, if not, this has been reviewed by the Grants Committee this morning, and all four were approved. May I have a motion? Bob, Mary, a second from Mary. And all in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, thank you very much, Mark. That's just fine. And thank you very much to the Grants Committee for coming early and reviewing all of this. Now there's oh dear, this Greenway indemnity of the saintly Steve Salan many years ago. He is retired from the Senate. Proposed and initiated what ultimately became legislation to provide an indemnity to the communities of the Greenway, or you had to be in the Greenway, is if the indemnity on zoning, because there's always a feeling that something might happen and those big bad developers will sue, and sometimes they do. And so this goes back about 12, 15 years, I guess, Mark. at least, is that, and you all know Steve Salan, he was actually, Steve Salan, when he was in the Assembly, and Maurice Hinchy, when he was in the Assembly, were two of the original sponsors of the Greenway. So he's worked on this for a long time. And there have been some lawsuits. And what, in our wisdom, guided by the legislation, we had insurance. It turns out the insurance doesn't work. So that we no longer have insurance, and the state has become the guarantor. So that some of you may at some point see some reference. The Greenway is a defendant in an action in Dutchess County. You know, is it both actions or just one?
There are two actions in Dutchess County. The town of Rhinebeck has brought the actions against the Greenway, New York State, and the Attorney General. One action is separate, and then there's also an Article 78. But in both cases, the Attorney General is representing the Greenway in the cases.
But if Sally Malzarella were here, she could explain it a lot better than I have. But you may see reference to it. It's no problem. But in fact, we want to always stand behind communities in their zoning. Sally spent. She
spent 5 years, I believe, as the chair of the Rhinebeck Comprehensive Plan Committee.
And held over 100 meetings. This is a labor of some magnitude. And then to be sued for it, it seems, well, anyway, never mind.
I think the takeaway is that there's some disagreement in what the indemnity provision in the statute means, which has resulted in different interpretations and has resulted in, people not really being clear what the benefit is. So these cases are a function of that, and I think they'll hopefully provide clarity to what it means.
Confusion reigns, right? Is there any questions, comments, amendments? All right. That's what this is about, and perhaps the next meeting we might ask Sally to. Oh, by the way, the Attorney General's won both lawsuits in the past on this.
The one previous case, the Attorney General won in Milan.
And in New York State, as you all know, of course, is the Attorney General is a separate office, so it's not the governor's office in this case. We are under the governor, but the Attorney General is separate, and they won that one clean away, right?
They did.
Okay. All right. Well, after that exciting adventure, I will turn Sarah to you to.
If anybody else wants to nerd out about the indemnity, see me after the meeting.
All right, so I will now call the Greenway Conservancy to order, and I will begin with seeking approval to apply for a grant. This has to do with the Hudson River National Estuarine Research Reserve. I believe it's for some shoreline study grants. Do you want to clarify?
It is part of our ongoing partnership with the Research Reserve. We host federal grants on their behalf to do scientific monitoring, to do various projects. This grant proposal is going to be $125,000. In exchange for hosting the grant, we get a 10% admin fee, so it helps us continue to fund staff and do the work that we do. So it's a mutually beneficial relationship. The word is that they have a better than 50% chance of getting this grant.
They have received preliminary approval and been asked to submit a full application, and they've been told solid number, 60% chance.
And so this is the resolution of the Conservancy to allow us to file the application on their behalf.
So moved. A second. Jane. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion is carried. Okay, so then we move to an announcement of an advisory board appointment. We're speaking about Sally Mazzarella, and she is being appointed as an advisory board member. You probably all know her. She's legendary in this world as the founder of the Winnicke Land Trust. Is that correct? And also is the chair of the Walkway Over the Hudson. And it felt very fitting, given how what a wonderful trajectory this Walkway Over the Hudson has meant for the Mid-Hudson. It is just very fitting that she should be appointed. Mm-hmm. So we're delighted to have her. So then we go to the water trail, the grant update. That was the exciting news we heard the last board meeting about the $90,000 grant that was received through the Regional Economic Development Council. So we're here to hear an update.
Well, coming on the heels of the water trails designation as one of the first 10 national water trails in the country, we were awarded $90,000 by the Regional Economic Development Council. I think it's refreshing to see a clear connection between economic development priorities and ecotourism and recreation in the Hudson River. So we are right now in the final throes of the contracting process with Empire State Development. And we want to start implementing this project. And the project elements will include using technology to make it easier for people to connect and use the water trail, and also some materials that will enable kayakers to navigate and plan their trips along the water trail. We're doing outreach to the usual suspects for this type of project in the Hudson Valley, but we're also asking any interested board members that want to participate in the steering committee to advise us on the direction of the project and the deliverables that we're developing. Scott, do you want to add anything specifically about that?
If you're interested in being a part of the Water Trail Working Group, please reach out to either Mark or myself, and we'll add you to the list.
Can you give us a sense of what that would entail in terms of time?
We're hoping that it just entails a couple of meetings to, first meeting to go over, this is what we got, this is what we said we'd do. Tell us what you want to see in these products, like a map, a smartphone optimized website, itineraries, and GPS uploads, so that somebody with a GPS unit would be able to upload the water trail essentially into their GPS and take it down the river. And we're trying to figure out what components should be involved in each of those. And then once we get that developed, we'll do RFPs, and then contract with whoever the winning vendors are. They will develop products. We will ask the people on the committee to review those to see if they work right or not, and then we'll go back and forth as many times with the vendor as we need to. And then, so hopefully most of that will be handled by phone and email, so that people don't have to come together. So we're hoping just a couple of in-person meetings and then some phone calls. Great.
Well, in the end, there's not always a huge amount demanded of our board. Much of our conversations are informal or formal at these meetings. So I really do encourage the Conservancy Board to if those who are the water lovers here, hopefully we all are, to help you guys out, because obviously the staffing continues to be very minimal. I still can never believe how much you do with your small staff, so I really do encourage the board to think about lending some time.
Just as Sarah says, Scott is the water trail.
Mm-hmm.
You've got, but for you it wouldn't exist. So it's true. I think that's really important.
All right. So we also are here to announce a couple of events. We have the Hudson River Days that are coming up on July 20th and 21st, and Cycling the Hudson Valley July 30th and August 4th. And it would be great to hear a little more about that, and again, see if any of us or all of us can participate in some way.
Hudson River Days is similar to the Hudson Valley Ramble in terms of the idea. It's a bunch of events to get people into the river and alongside the river to focus on the environmental resource that is the Hudson River. So we're partnered with our main partner, the Hudson River Estuary Program. The first Hudson River Days event was during 2009 in our quadricentennial, and since then we've done it every year. Hudson River Days this year is expanded by one day. It's not just one day, it's 2 days, so it's Hudson River Days. It's going to be anchored by 2 events, City of Water Day, that's sponsored by the Metropolitan Waterfront Alliance in New York Harbor, and an event in Kingston that's going to focus on sort of the Hudson Rising initiative that's connected, I believe, to our Hudson and that initiative. But the expectation is we had 40 events last year, and we hope to double that number of events from Albany all the way down to New York Harbor during that weekend. The Greenway's end of it, we've agreed to host the website. The website is hudsonriverdays.org.
Hudson River Days NY.
NY. HudsonRiverDaysNY.org. So the event registration right now is open. So if you know of organizations that want to participate in events that get people to the water, into the water, or generally related to the Hudson River, please go there and register them today.
Nancy, as the co-leader of this, representing the estuary, do you have anything you'd want to add to that?
Just that we're really excited that it was successful last year and that now we've expanded it to 2 days, and working with the Greenway and some of the other partners, we're really getting a lot of collaboration together on it, and we're very excited.
Mm-hmm. And the estuary program in this initiative is kind of the glue that's holding everything together and keeping the partners tethered to the idea and tethered to one another, so we get focused on getting this thing done. So thank you. The next one, Cycling in the Hudson Valley. Last summer, in partnership with Parks and Trails New York, we released the Cycling in the Hudson Valley Guidebook. And this essentially is their event. This is the 9th annual event that's going to take about 200 cyclists from Albany down to Manhattan through the Hudson River, the historic Hudson River Valley. So those are the dates. If you'd like to hop on your bike and join them, it's only $560, and that covers all your meals and all the logistics involved in doing that kind of trip. I hear they have a masseuse that comes along, so it's really,
I think that may be extra, though.
It may, well, it's well worth it if it's extra.
So there's no way to sort of join part way. It's like all or nothing.
No, I believe you can take shorter trips, but to find out more information about it, you can go to ptny.org.
Or there are brochures back on the display table.
Or the hard copy, even better. And that's it.
All right.
Thank you, Sarah. Now we segue into the Hudson River Valley National Heritage Area, and we'll be hearing There was an editorial comment from the mayor, I guess. Is it, and Jane, you wanted to say something at the beginning of, well, yeah. Is this a good time?
Who?
Jane Daniel?
Oh, Jane Daniels is over here.
Over here, yeah.
Yes.
Being nearsighted is no help.
Okay, I understand. All of us are familiar with the Palisades across from New York City, and about 100 years ago, a group of women who did not even able to vote, called the
Mike?
Women's Federation, had
Speak up.
Speak up. Is there a?
Yes, we're getting you a mic. Sorry about that, Jane.
The mic's right in front of you. Oh, okay. It's not moving.
Well, no, you have to sit.
Sit.
Oh, I sit. Okay, I will sit. I'm used to standing to speak.
Okay. Start again. This is Jane
I will
Daniels.
start again. Okay. About 100 years ago, a group of women called the Women's Federation, and remember, they couldn't vote at that time, protected the Palisades, and the park was eventually established. They're now joined with the New York, New Jersey Trail Conference, Scenic Hudson, and NRDC to protect the Palisades from a large building by the LG Corporation. It'll be on top of the Palisades in Inglewood Cliffs. It rises 4 times higher than the current allowed height of buildings in that area. And it will be a disaster for the view from any place on the Hudson, particularly along the eastern shore, I guess is what you call it, Yonkers in New York City. So there's a petition at protectthepalisades.org, and we're urging you to go and sign it. We are trying to get the municipality to rescind the rezoning that was done to permit this large building. And there's pictures on there that shows what it will look like. And it's this large white building poking its head above the beautiful Palisades. So we urge you all to just go on and sign. It's fairly easy to. Okay.
Thanks, Jane. We can take no official position on this.
Because we're government, yeah.
And it,
Right.
and certainly we're following this with great interest. There are now, I think, 3 lawsuits started by Larry and his group.
Mm-hmm.
And the original saviors of the Palisades, the Federation of Women in New Jersey or something like that. And anyway, it's quite exciting. And we have another interesting you hear about, which is about the Tower of Victory. And Matt and Sue are in the corner over there.
Over here.
And I can make out Sue from here. And Kevin. Okay, you 3 want to get together and tell us about that pile of stone to your back there.
Well, when we're not trying to save the Palisades, we're trying to save.
Okay, but you got to use the microphone.
Okay. Okay. You see in your newsletter.
This is Sue Smith from the Palisades Park.
State Park Commission and New York State Parks. We're partnering with the Palisades Parks
Raise that damn
Conservancy
thing up there, yeah.
to save the Tower of Victory. You all appreciate this view? Well, do we have a project for you? Right down the street is the Washington's headquarters, the oldest publicly owned historic site in the United States. And on that property, we have the 1887 Tower of Victory that was actually commissioned by the federal government under Robert Lincoln, son of Abraham in this year of Lincoln. It was designated to be a monument to the peace that was settled after the American Revolution. It's the only monument to peace in the United States that we have heard of, and we've been doing a lot of research about that. So again, it's 1887. It's a limestone structure that was built locally with local materials, local people. The children in Newburgh gave their pennies to help build this structure. And unfortunately, in 1950, the first hurricane that hit the northeast coast that also affected Newburgh destroyed the roof on the building. So what you see in your newsletter is the Tower of Victory without its beautiful hip roof. It's mission tile roof. So our project is to restore the roof, because without the roof, we have lots of water penetration. It's destroying the tower, and we're worried that it's going to stand up. So we have $1.5 million project. We've already raised with our partners $500,000 under the leadership and chairmanship of Mr. McHenry and also Maurice Hintry. Kevin Burke's on our team, as well as Johanna, and Matt is our grant writer extraordinaire. And you probably, if you haven't heard from us yet, and we've been sending letters continually, you will hear from us. So we are raising money. Like I said, we need another $1 million, and we're getting there, slowly but surely. Let's see, what else can we say about this project? We have great statuary. It's a piece of art besides just being a monument to peace. There's 4 soldiers, Washington's life soldiers, and then in the center of the pavilion there is a statue of George Washington that everyone says is the best likeness of him. And he looks out towards the river. And we'd like to get everyone to the top of that tower, and they can have this view in an open-air pavilion. So similar to the walkway on the Hudson that brought everybody up to be able to see the view, that's our goal, is to bring the history back to Newburgh, reconnect them to the river, and have a fabulous view. So, like I said, you'll be hearing from us. Kevin or Johanna, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to say we were conferring earlier this morning, and we were lamenting the fact that many historic sites in the United States are seeing declining attendance. I think Barney mentioned Williamsburg is down by half over the last several years, so it's a real decline. And yet, we also see at the same time a great interest in historical dramas like Downton Abbey and a number of others. So there's a yearning out there. And so that got me thinking, every morning when I wake up, I live down the street here in Newburgh, I jog by Washington's headquarters. And it's always a very beautiful part of the run, and quick though, but it causes me to think. And really, you could go on and on of the history of the site and why it's important, and the tower and why it's important. But really, when I think about it, what the founders of the Tower of Victory were doing and of the site, they were really engaging in an act of imagination. And today we can just turn on the TV and watch Downton Abbey and imagine what it was like to be in England, interwar. They couldn't. They had to go places, or they could read about them. And so the idea for preserving Washington's headquarters and for building the Tower of Victory was to engage in an active imagination, to stand where George Washington stood. Really, it was the end of the war, so people I think, mistakenly think it was all wrapped up. When in a sense, it was the most perilous point in the war, the peace. The armies had stopped fighting, but the British were still in New York City. The Continental troops were up here. Washington didn't know what was going to happen, but he knew that his troops weren't being paid. It was a very fragile moment. And so, in building a Tower of Victory to peace, it was really, I think, honoring that struggle. It was not easy. And in many ways, I guess the best way to understand it is that this Newburgh was the site of the temptation of George Washington. What kind of republic would this be? Would it be a constitutional monarchy? Would it be a government, run by the military? Here is where Washington, really with tremendous resolve and courage, said, no, we're going to be a republic. And so, when it came to the 100th anniversary of the Revolution, people of that time in Newburgh understood the significance of that site. They had just come through a civil war that had tested that republic. And so they wanted to honor this site. And from all I've read, the centennial celebrations at Yorktown and Bunker Hill and Lexington Concord paled next to Newburgh. In fact, the fireworks in Newburgh were said to have been better than the opening of the Brooklyn Bridge. It was quite a moment, because people understood how hard-earned peace was.
40 marching bands.
Marching bands, secretaries of state.
The noise in the Hudson Valley must have been...
Yeah.
Must have been
Everyone wanted a piece of it. Everyone wanted to be here. And I think in a way, Washington's headquarters has suffered in a sense alongside with Newburgh. I think as Newburgh has met its challenges, Washington's headquarters in people's minds has waned as an important place. And yet, back then, they recognized it as the most important place in the Revolution. More important than Saratoga, more important than Valley Forge, more important than Lexington Concord, because the direction of the country could have gone very, very different. And we're now at a time where Congress isn't getting along, there's sequestration, we're worrying about our troops coming home, how to unwind wars. That was all in Washington's mind. And so at building the Tower of Victory, people of 1883, and it was actually finished a few years later, were engaging in an active imagination. What was it like to stand here and weigh those problems? And so they would go up to the top of this stone structure and look out, and it was this perfect union between the landscape and its history. And I think really the Greenway had its roots in that moment. There were writers in the previous generation, Washington Irving, and a number of others who were trying to preserve Washington's headquarters because they understood that unique nexus between history and landscape. And so Washington's headquarters is really the symbol of that. And the Tower of Victory is really a chance for us to follow on that legacy. They were the preservationists. They preserved the site. The ones who built the Tower of Victory were the memorialists. They helped to commemorate it during the centennial. We have to be the restorationists. That's our charge. And it really isn't a tall order. It's $500,000 or $600,000 to get there, and we will. And I think people might say, well, why should we give this money to a place in Newburgh? Newburgh has so many problems. We can't trust the people down there. And I think about that a lot when I jog by, because right across the street from Washington's headquarters, you see its challenges. There's a bar where we've had a number of violent crimes committed in the last year. There's a lot of neglect of properties. And so you think, this is just going to go to waste. But really, I would say my greatest hope for the Tower of Victory, and why I think it's more important because it is in Newburgh, is that this is a city that needs imagination. It needs the people who live around it
to be able to climb a structure and look out and to see that there's a world beyond this city. And I think that's something Washington certainly saw. He saw a whole republic. And I think we need to see that again. And I think Newburgh needs this. We need your help. And I think on behalf of the entire committee, we'd like to invite your ideas about how to not only raise the money, but make the Tower of Victory something that's relevant. I think we see it as the next stop, the next logical continuation of the walkway of the Hudson. This could be the next stop on that wonderful romance that people now have with Hudson River, is that people can climb and stand where Washington stood at the moment that the Republic was saved. So thank you.
That, folks, is enthusiasm. We have, Newburgh is fascinating because you are so passionate, and Kevin Burke is, of course, has a PhD and is a writer, but Joanna, whose father was a distinguished mayor, and you are a passionate preservationist. Is it you're passionate? And I think is it. And do you want to say anything about it too?
The only thing I would add is that I'm here on the ground.
Louder.
I'm at the historic site. I'm here at Crawford House in Washington's headquarters almost every day. So if anybody is interested in hearing more of this kind of language, just call me up and I'll take you around the whole city and show you everything that I think is important having to do with this project and other projects that are here.
And we have both the city manager and the mayor, and all you have to do is just say, yes, it's great.
Don't get me started on Newburgh, because I am very passionate about it as well, and very passionate about what is happening here. The city manager and I just gave a State of the City address about, 2 or 3 weeks ago, listing and enumerating all of the various things that are happening here to lead this city in a new direction. The Tower of Victory is one of the great assets that this city has that hasn't really been utilized or used. So many things are here, and I think we have a team of citizens here right now that are working from every angle. It's like a full court press up the hill, and we're getting close to the tipping point. And this is one piece of that energy that is pushing Newburgh into its rightful place along the Hudson River. This has been a city of invention. It's been a city of inspiration. It's been a city of industrial development. All of those things are part of its heritage, and it needs to stand tall and take its place in that along the Hudson River and shine like it's supposed to shine. And that's what I think this Tower of Victory is a piece of that, a very important piece of it. And all of us here in the city of Newburgh welcome you and your help, your support, your partnership, and are very grateful for it.
Well said, Madam Mayor. Ed, did you ever want to say anything about it?
Yes, it's great.
Great, all right. And now Sue Smith and Matt Shook, who are sitting over there. Sue spoke passionately and well for the introduction to this. Do you have a handout for them?
Yes, in the back corner there's.
Okay, well, hand it out to them, or otherwise they won't. Is it? But the Tower of Victory is on Washington's headquarters, which, as I guess it was Kevin who noted, that it was the first nationally.
It's publicly owned historic site in the nation, and it's the oldest historic house museum in the world.
Thank you, Joanna. You're great. Is it? And it's right over here on Washington's headquarters. The tower was a little late. It was meant to commemorate the end of the Revolution, but it's a fascinating thing. It's part of that property. Is part of the Palisades Park system, and full disclosure, I'm a commissioner of the Palisades. So that invite your comments, but what we really want is your ideas. And if you...
Are ideas as good as money?
Yes. That would be nice. Money is nice, but we already have 600,000. And it, right, or something like that. Sue, you really know the figures.
Yeah, we're almost at 600.
Okay. All right.
We were.
And this is something that this is the work, what? Yes. Okay. All right, but that's the end of that.
Okay. Scratch for $50,000, so that, they support it, so I think we're well on the way.
Exactly.
The goal is what, 1.6?
About 1.5.
About 1.5, so we're about halfway, we're a little over halfway there.
Glenn?
There's no address on here to explain how people can get involved or send money in unless
All right, now let me see. I suppose, Mark, that since everybody supports the tower and wants to give money, now we can go on to the next thing, right?
Okay. Well, I guess, as Kevin said, that General Washington was weighing some heavy decisions. And one of the heaviest decisions and problems was what to do about Congress. And he foresaw that Congress would still be an issue today. And they certainly are. And so I want to talk a little bit about the National Heritage Area budget and some legislative updates from Washington. Now, one of the things that...
I don't mean to interrupt you, but many of you do not know that the entire budget for the building of the Tower of Victory came from Congress. It was a congressional appropriation. I'm not sure if there's a great hope of getting any money right now, but that's how it got started.
Well, as many things related to Congress, you must suspend your disbelief often. And if you do that, the sky's the limit. So that's what we're doing with the National Heritage Area budget. We lost our federal funding authority in 2012, but we're working to get it back. What that means for our organization is about $500,000 for programming. Congress is tasked with passing a budget. They haven't done it in a lot of years. So what they do instead is pass what's called a continuing resolution. There's a process to do that that's similar to the budget process, but not as it's not as robust. So the legislative update is that in the Senate Subcommittee on Interior Appropriations, our funding authorization has been placed into the continuing resolution language that the Senate will be submitting and negotiating on with the House and with the President. So that's a good sign, but we have to, I guess, cross our fingers that nobody notices it. If we should receive that, then hopefully we'll get the $500,000 this year reduced by the 5% related to the sequester. Additionally, Congress is working on a budget, and the budget that they're working on does not include funding for, I think, any heritage areas next year. So even if we do get past this hurdle, we still have another hurdle to get past in 2013, 2014. So hopefully positive news to come, and we have had great support from both Senator Schumer and Senator Gillibrand in this effort. In addition, Congressman Tonko up in the 20th District in Albany is co-chairing the Congressional Caucus for National Heritage Areas with Republican Congressman Charlie Dent from Pennsylvania. They're advancing the National Heritage Area Act of 2013. It was introduced in February. That act would grandfather in all the National Heritage Areas that were existing in the program, including ours, would establish baseline funding, would establish criteria for the program, which right now doesn't exist. So that's our A solution. The B solution is funding reauthorizations by any means necessary. So we're working on that, and we have a lot of support in Washington from our delegation. Now, one of the easiest things I can use to have our delegation support funding for our program is economic impact numbers from the study that we announced last January. Since then, the Alliance of National Heritage Areas has produced a sort of summary document that articulates the tremendous economic impact of national heritage areas across the country. Our national heritage area, again, according to the economic impact study, supports 6,800 jobs, contributes just over $500 million in our regional economy, And the Hudson Valley Ramble each year contributes $21 million to our regional economy. So I think in terms of those numbers, it's no question that what we do in terms of heritage, not only in preservation but promotion, is part of our economic development portfolio. It's something that's been recognized by the Regional Economic Development Council and certainly supported by Governor Cuomo. So, we're looking forward to using those figures to advance our cause for funding for our program. I did mention the Hudson Valley Ramble. The dates are every weekend in September with the exception of Memorial Day weekend. Memorial Day or Labor Day?
Labor Day.
Labor Day weekend. I always get those confused. And again, we had just about 200 events last year. We hope to do even better this year. Related to our funding issues of the Heritage Area Program, the Hudson Valley Ramble costs about $60,000 to do it right every year, including websites, collateral materials, and other things, advertising that we need to invest in. We're taking a hit in the budget because we don't have anything coming in from the federal government this year, so we're going to be more heavily relying on sponsorships this year. We have some money from previous years that we are devoting to this, but we really need to ramp up and encourage you to contact me to find out how you can help secure sponsorships. Beth is our fundraising and everything else person. So she will be drafting a solicitation letter that's going to be going out shortly for that. I'd like to thank the Hudson River Estuary Program for committing $5,000 to it. And I'd also like to thank Erie Insurance Company, who also sponsored the Ramble this year for $5,000. But we're piecing it together. We have $10,000 in the bank for sponsorships, but we're going to accept as much as we can to do it. It's a great project, and its impact is clear. So we just need to keep it going.
And don't the sponsors get, isn't there a T-shirt that has their name on it, the website? What are some of the benefits?
Well, if you go to HudsonRiverValleyRamble.com, there's a sponsorship link, and there you can see the benefits. The $10,000 level will basically, I think, create a bust for you to hand down to your family members if you so desire. But it includes a whole variety of benefits. Recognition on T-shirts, recognition on the website, press releases, and the opportunity to include your materials that we send out to the leaders of the Ramble. It's important. It's a great opportunity and a high-profile event to get the word out about what your organization does and what your business does. We produce about 60,000 Ramble booklets every year, so that in itself goes to a tremendous, the tremendous market of heritage tourists and recreational tourists that come to our region each year. All right. Oh, Path Through History. Path Through History has been taking a lot of my time recently. Path Through History
full disclosure, Mark.
Yes, is a Governor Cuomo, again, recognizing the importance of heritage tourism and the fact that New York's story is head and shoulders above any other stories in any other state in the nation in terms of its contribution to our national story. We just heard it from Kevin. Those stories are repeated in the Hudson Valley and across New York State. There's no question that we had the best story to tell, so the Path Through History was created by the governor to help us tell a better story and reap the benefits through heritage tourism. Each region that corresponds with the Regional Economic Development Council regions has a Path Through History work group comprised of tourism professionals and historians. Each of those regions are identifying sites and themes, similar to the process we went through in the National Heritage Area. I was honored to be asked to be the chair of the Mid-Hudson region in this early phases of this initiative back last summer. I don't know whether it was an honor or punishment, but I was also asked by the governor's office to coordinate the statewide effort across the 10 different regions across the state for the Path Through History. It's been a tremendous privilege to hear all the good stories and see the enthusiasm that people, it's not just Hudson Valley people that are enthusiastic about history, it's everyone across the state, and they're thinking seriously about how we connect the story to people and increase heritage tourism. So Path Through History is going to include coordinated signing, and Bill is going to get those up on the thruway tomorrow, I've heard.
All ours are up already.
Yes, some of them are up already.
Phase one is done.
It's going to include a robust website. Eventually it's going to include a mobile application that's going to be your not only tour guide, but sort of docent at the sites, ideally. And the Path Through History also includes grants. The governor announced $1 million to support Path Through History. The groups in the regions right now are working on a heritage tourism vision plan for the region. That's part one of the grant application, and part two is implementation projects. The vision plan, we're asking the groups to look out 5 years
and articulate their vision for heritage tourism in the region and identify strategies to get there. The implementation projects, each region will get $100,000 for implementation projects. That's intended to set the stage for achieving the goal of heritage tourism in the region. Telling better stories, dynamic programming, partnership building, promotion. $100,000 in the grand scheme of things isn't a lot of money, so we're asking them to focus on things that are going to be transformational, that are going to help the most people, that are going to help them tell their story in their region and connect that story to different markets. They're working on that now. Some of you participated after our last Greenway board meeting in the public process for the Path Through History, and thank you, Jerry and others that helped facilitate that conversation at our last meeting. We finally distributed the guidelines, and the guidelines for the plans and the implementation projects are going to be due to the Regional Economic Development Councils May 10th, in the hopes that the money will start going out to the communities for these projects in this fiscal year and during this tourism season. One of the things that we're also doing to draw a spotlight on Path Through History is we've transformed Heritage Weekend, which we did last year, into Path Through History Weekends. So it's going to be 2 weekends, June 1st and 2nd, and June 8th and 9th. Beth is also our Path Through History Weekends coordinator, fundraiser, and PR person. We recently opened up the website, paththroughhistoryweekends.com, for event registration. Last year, just working with the resources that we had in our shop, which means Beth and our intern, we were able to secure 200 events across the state, now being firmly connected with the governor's office and with I Love New York and leveraging their whole tourism apparatus. We hope to make the event even bigger and better to spotlight all the work that the various organizations are doing across the state for heritage tourism.
And I guess, just from the perspective, if you remember, this is now a wonderful continuum from the early days when the whole Heritage Weekend idea started. Joan Davidson and others as part of the Quadricentennial, to see that starting to really grow. I mean, it still had its growing pains because it didn't have the strength of the of the ESD tourism I Love New York brand. But now that it has gotten the governor's in what's the word? Well, just his support, his stamp of approval. The great hope is that it just will make it into really what we originally envisioned, which again is so huge in Europe, all over Canada, has been late to come to the United States, and there's great hope that it will. It will happen here as well. But in the end, it all comes down to us. So, for any of you who are involved with historic sites, cultural attractions, this is the moment to look at what, it's these weekends of June 1st and 2nd and 8th and 9th. And so, like at Olana, we're coming up and we're coinciding the opening of our exhibition. We have a lecture by a national expert. So we're really trying to make it really, really special for that weekend, or at least one of the weekends. So it really is up to us to make it feel so exciting that it gets the kind of, promotion in the New York Times and elsewhere. So great to see that it's moving so well.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Beth, for helping out. All right, well, we're at time, so I'll breeze through the rest of the agenda topics. Teaching the Hudson Valley, key date for the Teaching the Hudson Valley Institute. It's going to be focusing on Common Core and place-based education. Those two ideas are kind of opposed. But they're going to be having their annual institute at the Wallace Center in Hyde Park, July 30th and August 1st. In this quarter, our Explore Awards grants with the Teaching the Hudson Valley program have connected 250 students to historic sites and environmental locations in the Hudson Valley. The Nature and Culture Initiative update, we've been talking about this Tiffany Landscape Windows exhibit for, 2 years now, but we're so close. We have, and you'll see it in the Executive Director's report, a mock-up of one of the page entries for the interpretive project. Tiffany Windows, created by the Tiffany Studios in New York City. These are pieces of art. We're interpreting these pieces of art. They're in churches and locations throughout the Hudson River Valley. The exhibit is going to be anchored at the Met in New York City, and then a number of different churches and other locations in the valley that have these spectacular Tiffany landscape windows. We just want to connect people to these places and these works of art.
can anything be launched during Path Through History? Is there any coinciding possible?
It could be. I don't know, Beth. Do you think you want to take that on too? No, we're close. We're in the final design stages of the inserts. We're getting ready to upload those on the website, and then we'll put together a nice, press event at one of these churches to launch the program. The final one is the Washington-Rochambeau Revolutionary Route. Janet Burnett already said a few words about the project. We're working to interpret the route as it went through Westchester, Orange, and Rockland counties. We've identified, and the folks from the National Park Service and their consultants have identified 20 sites in that region for interpretation. They have created sign mock-ups for the interpretation of that route and are commissioning original and using existing works of art. The idea is to have those signs installed midsummer, early fall, so that the trail and its interpretation in this area will be completed by the fall. New York is the first state along the National Historic Trail, which stretches from Rhode Island all the way down to Yorktown, Virginia, the final victory in the Revolutionary War. First state to have interpretation of the Washington-Rochambeau Revolutionary Route National Historic Trail. So it's significant, and we're again being the model for the rest of the country in terms of how they approach this important piece of our American history and I guess international history.
All right. Well, that's great. And then I guess do you have your 2 minutes to
Well, the only thing I will say, and I've covered most things that are important in the Executive Director's report, but as I often do, and I would be remiss if I didn't, is to recognize the tremendous work of the staff of the Greenway, Scott Keller and Beth Campachero. At every moment when we feel that we can't do any more, I know that I can lean on them to do just a bit more, and we all pull together and do it. And we wouldn't be able to get anything done, or certainly not as much as we are able to get done without Scott Keller and Beth Campachero. So please join me in thanking them.
Sarah, Beth and I would like to also take the opportunity to thank Mark for covering us when we screw up. And
I wasn't going to take the opportunity for that.
And just being supportive in general. He does a great
job.
I mean, you guys almost thank him, but we never get the chance to. So we were talking after the last meeting that we wanted to take an opportunity, just shoehorn our way in and say thanks.
Well,
thank
and
you
I
very
think
much.
it's felt by all of us. So a round of applause.
The Mutual Admiration Society is growing to a close, but we do have public comment, and if you'd like us to approve anything you say or do, we'll do it right now. Any comments? Yes.
Is there anything these boards can do to take the acting out of the title of our executive director? Is that a motion that we can make as a board?
Well, yeah, that is, that.
Well, we reached our 1 year.
This is something that only the governor's office can do, so that we direct your comments, questions to Mr. Cuomo.
Would it be appropriate for the two boards?
Well, we've done it. We did that once. And the thing is that we've asked several people up there to help us, and it's right, because it's ridiculous. He shouldn't be acting, he should be the real thing. But he is the real thing, we all know that. And but it's nice to ask about it. If you happen to run into anybody runs into the governor from time to time, and you can't think of anything to say something about Mark, I guess. But I mean, no fooling. Yes, we have been. It is an embarrassment, and one of my many failures. But now, any other questions or things, stuff? Next meeting, Mark, will be where?
At another spectacular venue in the Hudson River Valley on June 12th.
What's that spectacular venue?
It's a good question. There are so many. Our choices are almost limitless.
All right. Well,
Probably, it might well be over at Sarah Olson's.
Maybe. We could also have it outside, summertime.
I know.
Yeah, we could indeed. All right. Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
No. think the meeting is
Motion
adjourned.
to adjourn.
Excused, right?
Mayor, excuse, yeah.
Thank you.
I would just like to extend an invitation to everybody for the Newburgh Illuminated Festival.